don't think it doesn't go unnoticed, and I'll point that out to you in just a minute. So, but if we look at operations, there's a whole lot of things that go on, but most of us get this. Most of us are kind of understand. What's the fourth role? We've talked about finance, we talked about research, we talked about operations. What's the fourth role? Executive, well, that's a fifth role. Well, I can't count, I'm an engineer, so. Marketing. Michelle just spent an hour talking to you about the fourth role. Should I call her back up here? So, I mean, that's what it was, right? It's about marketing, networking, all that junk is about marketing. Operations is adding value. Marketing is communicating how you added value or how you can add value if you're trying to get new customers, right? Because the nice thing, that's the difference between the employment model and the knowing you're in business model is an employment model. We go into a little crisis mode if we lose our job. It's just a job. To an entrepreneur, a job. Think a 14-year-old mowing your yard. If he loses a job, he just lost a yard. He go get another one. Right? And that's how businesses are looked at. If you lose a customer, you just go get another one. It's not a big deal. You're going to lose customers. How many of you have already lost customers? Willingly. I said willing. How many of you have been unwilling lost customers? In other words, let's put it another way. You've been fired. How many of you have ever fired a customer? You ever think about it? Some of us fired customers. That's a good feeling. Have you ever gone to a dentist or something or some service provider that you're always doing business with and you're sitting in a chair? And I had this happen to one of the dentists I went to, and he says, Dale, you've been a great customer so much. And we got this new guy, John. We've brought him in here. He's great, went to the school. He's going to now take care of you, and I'll do this. I just got fired. Because the dentist that owns the clinic, my teeth are clean. He's not making any money off of me. He fires me to the schmuck, the new guy. And good consultants every year fire 10% of their clients. The 10 lowest percent of their clients they get rid of. They don't just, not in an ugly way, but they hand them off to somebody else so they can focus on growing the clients and where all the money's coming from. You got to think about it like that. Where is your money coming from? How many of you got more than one source of income? Okay, no cameras are on. I realize maybe some of you don't. Have you disclosed it? No. So, but in communicating value, it's to your customer or to a customer that you might want in the future, right? How do you communicate value? This was last on Michelle. Michelle, are you in here? Okay. This was last on her list. I loved it. Resume, and especially since the name of my book is Resumes Are Worthless. But I love, and usually I'm following some person who spun up here and spoke for about an hour on how to do resumes, and I come up, so it's usually not a good. These guys plan much better. But if you think about resumes, what do we think about when we hear in our office a crisis going, they're going to be downsized, and we start hearing that? What's our immediate thought? I got to go update my resume. Can you imagine Walmart's board of directors sitting over here at the table? They see this drone story come out, and then they're sitting back there. What are we going to do about this? And the CEO says, I got it. We're going to update our brochures. Right? What stupid strategy is that? That's all your resume is. It's a stupid brochure, which, by the way, nobody reads. I will add to this, business plans are worthless also, but that's another story. Because nobody reads them. Nobody reads them. Nobody cares. The machines are handling them. But that's the model. But if we look at, let's get personal here. Let's get very personal. What is this person doing? Or what do we call this person? Janitor. Janitorial services. I'm sure there's some much nicer politically correct names, but that's what it is, right? Janitorial services person. If a janitorial services person, think about as a marketing person communicating value. Most janitorial services people work at nighttime in business buildings. Most of them, if they're doing their job perfectly, what do you notice about them? Nothing. You don't realize they were there. They're perfect. So when it comes time for me to cut the budget, and I'm looking at all the money flow, where do I cut first? Janitorial, it happens all the time. All the time, janitorial services get cut. People look around, let's get rid of them. Look, the building's perfectly clean. What do we need them for? Right? Janitorial services people have a hard time communicating value. You know what job is like a janitorial services person? Project manager. If you do your job perfectly, you're almost invisible, aren't you? If you mess up, are you invisible? Not in the right way. You know, so I know some janitorial services people that what they do, they understand this model. They're business people. They understand they need to communicate the value to their customer. So they'll come in at nighttime and they'll put little cookies on the office manager, the CEO, or maybe everybody's desk with a little note. Sometimes, there's one time the lady told me, she said, I went in there in their little room, they had a leaky faucet underneath, and so I put a bucket under there and made a note that said, we noticed you had a leaky faucet in there. We've already called your plumber and he's going to have him call you to come, if you want him to come check it out. Not only did she add value, which by the way cost her $0 to add, but she communicated value. I'm here. I'm taking care of you. And she'll sometimes leave notes. We found some stuff underneath the table where it looks like somebody had dropped it. We didn't know who it belonged to. In other words, I'm cleaning under the table, right? Things are happening here when you're not visible. But she found these ways to communicate value just by doing. By the way, it's so easy to communicate value by not doing anything. We do this one thing in our graduate program. I don't know, anybody here done a graduate program? What do we call people that you go to universities and pay them? This is not a trick question. Students. We call them students. Now to me, when you think of a student, what do you think? Do you think of somebody with power, or do you think of somebody subservient? Subservient. Now, I remember when they asked me to take over this graduate program at the university, which was another accident I got into, and I said, what we're doing is we're taking people like yourself, savvy, understand the world. We're taking money from them, lots of money, by the way, and we're going to call them students. I said, we're not doing that. They're hiring us for the business of them, so they're our client. So I said, we're calling them clients. And I don't let our faculty call them anything else. They're clients. Dadgummit, they're clients. And I get a call from the university lawyer. Dale, you can't call students clients. You don't do that. I said, why not? He said, I'll get back to you. That was 5 years ago. He's still researching it. But it's so subtle. It cost us how much? Nothing. It cost us nothing. And yet, we constantly get comments back about how we treat people like clients. Partly because we told them, we're treating you like clients. And they're like, wow, you treat us just like clients. Yes, and we told you we were going to. Isn't this kind of genius? You're just putting the words right back. It's a subtle connection to adding value to people. Michelle mentioned, how do most people measure value? By the dollar. There's no prettier picture than a dollar. I know lots of companies who have nice little spreadsheets. Employee's name, the cost of the employee, plus the cost of all those benefits, because they're real. Think 25% to 30% of your salary. They add those two numbers together. So that's the total cost to the employer. And then they have another column, the value they added. In dollars. These aren't salespeople. These are project managers and technical support people. And I remember seeing this one girl's spreadsheet, and she had and it was sorted, by the way. It was kind of sorted where the most value up here and the bottom value was negative in the red. And John's name, I think his name was one of the ones that was negative. I said, hey, gal, what's the deal with John? He's going to be fired. When? As soon as you get out of my way. I said, well, that's kind of interesting. Does John know that? No. Does John know you have this spreadsheet? No. She said, none of my employees do. I said, how did you come up with John's value? I have a formula. What if your formula is wrong? It could be. I said, because you probably don't even know everything John does. I probably don't. I'm like, this sounds idiotic. What kind of idiot are you, girl? I said, what are you doing? She says, whose problem